some people have this experience of switching companies like over multiple years. I was having this experience over multiple months or even maybe weeks.
So you managed to save as much as 80% of your salary?
What I was earning in 2019, 2020, in a month, I started earning that in a week. I did take the risk. I was like, okay, I need to have a home for myself.
So how you got exposed to investing, and were there any initial investing mistakes you made?
Our salary was basically getting paid in crypto itself. He does not know so much about the market. I do. Why can't I make that much? By the end of this whole adventure, I realized that, okay, I have too many mutual funds.
How many was too many? Welcome to Let's Mint Money. This is a show where we talk about how ordinary people create wealth over the long term by seeking out the right financial advice. This is Neil Borate. I am personal finance editor at Mint. This show is in association with Grow Mutual Fund. I'm also joined by my colleague Jash Kriplani. And today our guest is quite unique. He is Gen Z. He lives in something of a dream location, Darjeeling. He has started very early with investing and with planning for his long-term financial goals. Harish Mishra is 24 and is already well on his way to financial independence and his achieving his goals. Welcome, Harsh.
Thank you, Neil. Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me here.
So, Harsh, tell us a little bit firstly about your life. You live in this wonderful place. You managed to save most of the salary you earn. Tell us more about that.
So it's pretty great, I would say. I graduated out of my college a couple of years back. And since then, I have been working at this company called as Local Stack. It's based out of Switzerland. It's a cloud-based startup. And with all of these remote startups, like remote work life was kind of the norm over here. So it was a conscious decision, I would say, because I had the option to either go and live in these big cities like Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai. But then I was like, let's live over here. Darjeeling is my workplace. It's also my home place right now. So it has been going pretty great. Darjeeling has so much to offer. It's full of greenery, mountains, exquisite places, and so many good things to actually do. But it also wears down on you sometime. So I guess it's a win-win situation for me. You have to do the whole balancing and counterbalancing act. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's pretty fruitful.
So you managed to save as much as 80% of your salary?
I would say the more realistic rate is about 65 to 70%. So out of my current salary, I am mostly spending around 15K, 20K. Even if I stretch myself, that was about 25K at best. Apart from that, I have a staggered payment scheme for one of the homes that I have purchased in Pune recently. So after that, the whole saving rate just counts to be about 65-70% at best.
Yeah, so let's talk about that now. What prompted you to invest in real estate? When did you first do it, and why this particular property in Pune?
I would say that this actually comes from my family itself. My family is a big believer in real estate. There is always this whole age-old saying that your real money is always in the real estate. So be it lands, flats, or any sort of residential property that you purchase, your real asset is that particularly. But I guess just hearing from all of these financial influencers, people on social media, I realized that, okay, that may not be the case, because even though you're purchasing these residential properties, they're not exactly liquid assets. So I did take the risk. I was like, okay, I need to have a home for myself, something that's beyond Darjeeling, something that's beyond my natural boundaries. And that basically prompted me to go out to seek out different properties that I can purchase. Now, just like any other person who is in my same age or in the same role that I am, we had a few options. Either we could go to Bangalore, or we could go to Mumbai, or we can go to Delhi. Now, we all know the situation of real estate, at least in Bangalore, Delhi, and Mumbai right now. So this left me with two options, Hyderabad and Pune. And since I have visited Pune for a few conferences, meetups here and there, I was like, okay, Pune looks like a good option. So I just went ahead with that. There were a few options over there as well. So we had to do a lot of brainstorming, a lot of analysis. And then we just finally settled on one of the property that just made quite a lot of sense to us.
And how did you fund this investment?
So most of the investment actually came from my liquid assets itself. So I have been saving since my college time. And I have been part of many internship programs, scholarship programs here and there. So that gave me quite a good amount of corpus. And beyond that, I had some mutual fund assets as well. So when it came to basically finance this whole property purchase, then we just decided to dilute that and just go ahead and purchase that property, because at that time it was quite interesting for us and we found like a lot of value in that particular property. So we were like, okay, we can do away with a little bit of dilution and we can just go ahead with this particular decision.
All right. So Harish, also, if I'm correct, you had a lot of internships before your current role. Can you take us through that phase? Because I believe you also started investing early and around that time. So how you got exposed to investing, and were there any initial investing mistakes you made?
Sure thing. So I guess like I started my first internship back in 2019, 2020. So back at that time, I was in my second year of college. And I had my first internship like as a web developer back then. So I was getting like a stipend of about 5,000 rupees here and there. Now the fun fact is that I didn't have a bank account. So the only place I could send this money to was my father's bank account.
How old you were?
I was almost 19, 20 at that time. So I decided to send all the funds to my father's bank account, and my father used to just give me like 2,000 rupees out of my own stipend as the basic pocket money sort of thing.
That was the father tax that...
Exactly. But I did not realize that he actually started a mutual fund on my name. So he started like a UTI mid-cap mutual fund. And I guess that was a pretty good decision because that gave a pretty good returns over there. And then COVID happened. And as always, like markets started to crash. And with this whole time, I returned back to my hometown. I was like just staying in my room, just doing nothing. And being frank, no one was really attending these remote college classes. So I was like, okay, let's continue doing these internships. Let's find some gigs and just continue working on that. So slowly my internship stipend started to increase because I was just switching companies at a very rapid pace. So some people have this experience of switching companies like over multiple years. I was having this experience over multiple months or even maybe weeks.
Yeah.
So what I was earning in 2019, 2020, in a month, I started earning that in a week.
Wow.
So that growth rate was kind of exponential, and that meant that I was getting a lot more money. So when I actually started my own bank account, I started seeing the funds coming on my own self. Then I was like, okay, let's start investing something.
Yeah.
So over there, I installed PhonePe because it was the ubiquitous app that people use for UPI payments. And I saw like this one small tab called as Wealth. I was like just curious, just to go and click there. And I saw that, okay, you can start a mutual fund. So I was like, okay, let's start keeping some, like just start a SIP of 2,000, 3,000, and your money might increase in the future.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I didn't realize is that you just don't see how much returns you might get, because PhonePe has this unique calculator where you can just enter the value of your SIP and it will say like, okay, after 5 years, you will get this much.
Yeah.
It does not accommodate for any of the other aspects of financial investment, like what's the Sharpe ratio, what's the AUM size or anything like that. So I was just mindlessly creating mutual funds. At that point of time, I did not like really seek anyone's advice. I was in conversation with my father, but then he was like just saying like, okay, just keep your focus on a few funds. Market is always in turmoil and you should not just stretch your legs beyond what you can actually do. But I did not really pay heed to that particular advice. By the end of this whole adventure, I realized that, okay, I have too many mutual funds. So what I did is like, I just clicked some screenshots.
How many was too many?
So it was almost 14, 15 back then.
Huh.
Yeah, I see the reaction on your face now. So I just clicked a screenshot. I went to a subreddit. So there is a subreddit called as NSE Street Bets or India Street Bets. So I went over there. I just posted the screenshots through an anonymous profile. And I was like, okay, just give feedback about my investments, because that was a common practice in that particular subreddit. So someone commented over there, and that was very offensive to me because I knew that I made a mistake. Is that, bhai, tune to mutual fund ka bhi mutual fund bana diya. So at that time, I knew that, okay, this was a mistake. This was a misadventure. I need to just crawl back and I need to find something better. So this was when I got introduced to Akshay through a website called as Fee Only India. I was basically seeking out an RIA, like who can just basically guide me through my investments. And yeah, that has how the whole journey has been so far.
Apart from mutual funds, were there anything else that you tried and you felt that maybe you should quit this? And
FNO. Yeah, FNO. So this was like almost last year, back in May or June. So yeah, I guess everyone has friends who trades, and they always have this weird habit of clicking screenshots and sending it to you and like, bhai maine aaj itna banaya. And then you are like, okay, this guy is making so much. He does not know so much about the market. I do. Why can't I make that much? And this is when I started like, okay, jumping into FNO. So I was like, okay, let's just go like buy an option, see what happens. The first day, it was profit. The second day, it was profit. And the third day, it was such a great loss that it just wiped away all my profits. Another misadventure, I would say, would be crypto. So this was in 2022. I was working at a London-based startup, and they were pretty much working on crypto exchanges, blockchain, Ethereum, and all of those kind of things. So our salary was basically getting paid in crypto itself. So I had this option that I can just dilute my salary into US dollars and then to Indian rupees, and then I can have that. But this also gave us this impetus that, hey, I can start investing something in crypto. So I went ahead with one of the popular crypto platforms that is in quite a good controversy right now. I invested some of my funds over there, and in a few months, almost all of that was just wiped out. But now I see the portfolio, it is up by 70%.
Okay, so on that note, let's bring in Akshay Nayak, who is a SEBI registered investment advisor who lives in Bangalore. Welcome, Akshay.
Hello, hi, Josh.
Hi.
Great to connect with all of you today.
So, Akshay, when Harish came to you with his portfolio, what was your first reaction? What steps did you then proceed to take?
Right, I think Harsh has already alluded to this when he spoke, when he said he had about 40-50 funds in his portfolio. So, my first impression of his portfolio was that it was extremely cluttered, okay, and he didn't really need those many funds in his portfolio. So, by and large, the overriding suggestion I made to him with regard to his portfolio was to ask him to streamline his portfolio and put all his or most of his money into a single large cap index fund, particularly Nifty 50 index fund.
Yeah.
And on the red side, I asked him to put most of his money into liquid funds. Okay. Would you like me to go further into the rationale behind my recommendations here?
If you could talk about how many, so he had 14, 15, so how many did you bring it down to? And now just give us roughly the breakup of categories. So how much is in index versus mid or small cap?
So for now, because Jash is a new investor who when he came to me had relatively limited experience with regard to investing in mutual funds. For now, I just asked him to limit his equity exposure to one or two large cap index funds, no mid cap, no small cap for now. Going forward, as he gains more experience, if he's up for it, if his risk tolerance allows it, if his life situation allows it, then we may consider mid and small cap exposure through mid and small cap index funds.
Yeah. And I think
on the red side, I'm mostly going to keep it locked to liquid funds. No changes over there.
so an index fund and a liquid fund being the majority.
Yes. And also, actually, when Harsh came to me, one thing that he did mention was because he worked with a Swiss employer, there was no retirement benefit being offered to him in terms of like an EPF or an NPF. So therefore, as a substitute for the EPF, I recommended a PPF account for her. Public Provident Fund. Because we needed one component of his long-term debt portfolio which offered stable tax-free interest or income and which offered safety and stability.
And Harsh, also, I believe you have an eventual financial independence corpus target. Can you tell us what that is and by when you plan to achieve that? And then we'll get Akshay in also for his views.
So right now the initial estimate is about 14-15 crores, and this is by the age of 50 to 55. Hopefully, if the markets just serve us right and just does not come crashing down. But this will definitely keep changing over the time, because what Akshay suggested to me is like a simple calculator sheet where we can just fill in like, okay, how much we are exactly spending right now and how much money we would exactly need when we kind of retire. So this was a very handy calculator, because now I can calculate like how much money I need to invest for every single rupee that I'm spending on myself. So when I just did the estimate and everything, so this was the final value that came out to be. But again, these targets keep on changing because inflation, it can go haywire, it can go either way. Second thing is that we are in the tech sector, and one thing that I guess everyone can agree with is that tech sector is kind of increasing right now. And even with the whole advent of AI and all of these kind of stuff, technology will keep on increasing. So depending on the world that we would live in the future, I guess, yeah, this target is completely variable, but this is what I have estimated for the present time.
So Akshay, can you talk us through this particular, the financial freedom goal of 14 to 15 crores? How did you estimate that? And to get to it, what did you suggest? What paths did you suggest?
And if I may also add, Akshay, can you also help us understand what will be the inflation adjusted target? Is this enough in the next 30 years, and does this need to be optimized going forward?
Right. So, at any given point of time, the amount of money that any individual would require to, call themselves financially independent would be their current annual expenses multiplied by the number of years they expect to spend in retirement or post financial independence. Okay. So, in Harsh's case, we spoke about an initial retirement target of 50 to 55. So, assuming a life expectancy of 90 for Harsh, retiring at 50 means he needs about 40 times his current annual expenses as a financial independence corpus. And this figure will be updated year on year, because we will be taking fresh inputs for monthly expenses and annual expenses every year, and we will be coming up with separate FI targets and separate monthly investment targets every year based on the fresh inputs. This allows us to account for inflation in expenses as well as changes in Harsh's life situation. For example, at 24, Harsh still has a number of life events ahead of him. This could be moving to a bigger city, getting married, starting a family, right? And in this case, when these life events take place, it's but obvious that his expenses would increase, maybe even drastically. Therefore, taking fresh inputs for the expense figures every year allows us to account for inflation more realistically, as well as allows us flexibility to account for changes in life situations. Cyclicality and uncertainty is a very real risk, especially in the IT industry, where tech keeps getting upgraded every couple of years or even 5 years. So definitely uncertainty is a very big risk in the IT industry. So what I've asked Harsh to do is to keep at least 6 months to 1 year of his current annual expenses in highly liquid avenues at all times. When I'm talking about liquid avenues, I'm talking about any avenue which is easily convertible to cash, and there should be no significant change in the value of the asset or the investment at the time of conversion. So going by this definition, the most ideal avenues for this contingency fund, or what I like to call an emergency fund, would be liquid cash, savings bank deposits and fixed deposits. And this emergency fund is only meant as a, like a fire extinguisher is what I like to compare it to. So only when Harsh faces a negative event, a sudden negative event that comes with a significant financial cost, that is the only point of time that he'll be dipping into this corpus. So what this does is it actually gives Harsh the peace of mind to say that no matter what life throws my way, financially I'm covered at least for the next 6 months to 1 year, and that should give him enough time to tide over the event and come back to a point of financial stability.
So Harsh, when you began investing, you were investing in regular plans and now you switched to direct?
Exactly. So when I started investing, I just installed a ubiquitous UPI app that had an option to start investing in mutual funds. So I just decided to scroll through all of the available mutual funds and just started to start my SIP process. The main problem was that apart from the fact that we can do a SIP, no other information such as the AUM size or the expense ratio was basically being shared. So I did not have the financial knowledge to exactly follow up on that information, and I had just this one notion that, hey, you can just start investing and your funds will keep just increasing over the time. Now, when my mutual funds started ballooning up, then I decided that, hey, we need to be serious. So I decided to install a particular application. I just imported my mutual funds over there, including all my SIP. And then I had basically seen this whole thing that, okay, most of my mutual funds are basically in the regular option. So I just got curious. I was like, okay, what's this regular mutual fund that I have been subscribed to? And then I realized that, hey, there is a difference between regular mutual fund and the direct mutual fund. And there is a very vast difference in the whole expense ratio as well. So then I decided to just start switching my funds from regular to direct. Now, it had a short-term tax implication. I also ended up losing a bit of money on that because I was basically moving my transactions within just 1 year of time. But I guess it was a short-term pain for the long-term benefit.
And this brings us to the end of another episode of Let's Mint Money. Harsh's journey is inspiring for various reasons. He is Gen Z, yet he has embarked very early on thinking about his long-term goals, like possibly an early retirement or home buying. He's taken advice from a SEBI-registered investment advisor. And he's understood important concepts like the difference between regular and direct plans. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Harshvardhan Mishra's journey to financial independence aims for a rupees 15 crore corpus. Harsh has done a fantastic job in several areas of his financial planning. Starting early, maintaining a high savings rate, and seeking professional guidance were all smart moves that had set him on the right path. His decision to streamline his investments, focus on starting with a simple product like the Nifty 50 index fund, and build a solid contingency fund shows a level of foresight. I also appreciate his maturity in quitting F&O trading after realizing that his risk profile may not be aligned to it. These choices will undoubtedly help him stay focused on his goal of financial independence. If you are an investor with a similar profile, young, debt-free, and aiming for long-term goals, here is what I would recommend. Start early and have a high equity exposure. One of the key advantages of starting early is the time it gives to your investments to grow through compounding, and that can happen only via equity. Compounding works by generating returns on both your initial investment and the returns that accumulate over time. The earlier you start, the more time you give your money to grow exponentially. Focus on equities, specifically equity mutual funds as your primary asset class to maximize the benefits of compounding. Equities over time have the potential to offer higher returns compared to any other asset class, making them ideal for long-term wealth creation. Keeping your strategy simple and avoiding the temptation to over-diversify will help you stay aligned with your long-term objectives. Building a contingency fund is also essential, especially if your income is variable or your industry is prone to volatility. And remember, if you ever feel uncertain about your financial plan, it's always a good idea to consult a financial advisor. Taking that step, as Harsh did, can give you the clarity and confidence needed to achieve your financial goals.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.